In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the surprising reasons why so many advisor retirement plans fail. As an advisor myself, I see nightmare situations from time to time, other financial advisors informing soon-to-be retirees about their retirement plans without critically breaking down some very important factors. It's exactly why I'm making this video today. I'm going to be breaking down the surprising reasons I've seen firsthand over the years your advisor may be getting your retirement plan wrong. More importantly, I'm going to be helpful and give you the red flags that you can spot to help identify if your retirement plan perhaps is on the wrong path. First of all, you need to know about 70% of Americans who have done a good job retirement saving, they do use a financial advisor. The reason, because the research shows that these type of retirees who have an advisor, they tend to expect to retire sooner and they have more confidence in their retirement plan. Personally, I've done a lot of work throughout the years to try and help people understand, retirees especially. You have one chance to get this retirement right, okay? But I take it a step further. I've been very, very vocal in my career about this. The most important decision you will make in your retirement is choosing the right advisor. The problem is there's not a really good way to decipher between a good one and a bad one. Unfortunately, a lot of retirees find this out the hard way. I don't want to sit here and say that there aren't good advisors out there. The fact is, there are a lot of good advisors out there. However, as I've discussed on this channel, they are few and far between. In fact, less than 10% of American advisors are what I call a level 5 advisor. If you want to learn more about a level 5 advisor, go to my channel, type in level 5, lots of videos, easy to find, educate yourself on a level 5 advisor. Case in point, over the years, thousands of clients who have first come to work with us have been asked to answer this very simple question. And would you believe more than 1/3 of response, like 35% of people that answer this question, give me an answer A, right? Here they are reaching out and they're saying, look, I already have an advisor, but I'm having second thoughts. That's very indicative of people realizing maybe they're not working with a level 5 advisor. I started in 1999. I've seen a lot of financial plans put together by other advisors from people who have come over. Here it is. The most common reason retirement plans fail is due to the flawed or completely inaccurate case, sometimes, of the assumptions these advisors are making in retirement plans, okay? It's not the only reason a plan can fail, but it is the primary factor that we have seen over the years that can definitely just derail the retirement plan from the very beginning. And it's frequently overlooked, okay? I will share with you the most common examples that I've seen over the years, but as I said, I'm going to give you the way that you can spot the problems in your plan. So the first assumption that can cause your retirement plan to fail is investment return assumptions. Assuming the wrong return and too aggressive a return can make your plan look great, but guess what? Potentially at a fatal cost. I will show you this simple example. So take a look at this example. This is a great reason why investment return assumptions can be absolutely deadly. I'll just go through it really quick. This is a client who came to me. They were going to, in their existing plan from another advisor, they were going to die right here with $6 million in their bank account. That sounds like a great plan, right? But underlying that great plan was the assumption that they were going to get great returns, okay? Aggressive returns that, while possible, were not probable. And the other problem with assuming any return in a plan, as we know, is what's called sequence of returns. We're not going to get into that, but essentially what it says is we know that the stock market is not going to just go up a little bit every year in a straight line like this picture shows. That's not practical. What is practical is that there's going to be some good years, some bad years. Remember, in the not too distant past, we had what's known as the lost decade. This is where the stock market literally for 10 years made basically nothing, okay? Now, what I would recommend and what we did do for this client is I said, look, let's be more conservative. Now, why would you want to be more conservative? You're going to die with less money. Probably you're not going to make as much money. Here's why. This plan with you dying with $6 million looks fantastic unless we have another lost decade followed by slow growth. Now look what happens. You're actually running out of money, Mr. and Mrs. Client, with that aggressive portfolio. You're running out of money before you pass away. And that more conservative portfolio gives you enough to last the rest of your life. This is the perfect example of why the assumptions of underlying investment returns can kill a portfolio, can kill a retirement plan, and you don't even realize it because all you're looking at is this. And it looks really great. But guess what? Investment assumptions are dangerous. And a lot of times I see advisors portray an investment return which is not practical. That is lesson number one. How do you spot the red flags on these investment returns? You ask a couple simple questions like, what's the average return, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor, that you're showing for my investments over the life of my plan? If they stammer, if they don't have a direct answer, it takes them a while to answer, that's a red flag right there. But if they give you a number like, oh no, 12%, 11%, 10%, 9%, even 8%, I'm here to tell you that that might be a sign that they are being overly aggressive just to show you a nice return, a promising result for your retirement plan, but it very well may be setting you up for failure. Now, this is the final question you ask your advisor about investments. Ask what the average allocation of stocks over the life of your retirement plan is. If they do not give you a quick response, again, right there, red flag. But if they say anything north of 60% for your overall retirement portfolio, to me, that's a red flag, okay? It would be extremely rare that we would allocate more than 60% of a retiree's overall portfolio into any kind of risky asset class. Everyone's situation is different, but the majority of Americans should not be overly aggressive in their retirement. You have to decide what your situation is. The key to success in most retirement plans is not relying on investment returns. It's relying on income stability, the reliability of safe, steady income. This is what pushes most plans in retirement over the hump in a diligent and responsible manner. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. What's a safe retirement portfolio strategy? What's that look like in regards to stocks, bonds, alternatives? And what do you feel is reasonable expectations for an average return in your retirement plan? If you have an opinion about this, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. The second assumption that sets retirement plans up to fail is expenses. I see this all the time. The best analogy here is that football coach. He's focusing on his offense. How many touchdowns can I get my quarterback to throw? What's the best way to get my running back into the end zone 3-4 times? And what are the trick plays I can design to really increase the score on the scoreboard? But he makes one terrible mistake. He never gives a thought about the team he is up against. He never thinks about the defense. In much the same way, it is very common for financial advisors to focus on these sexy things, right? And I get it, right? They want to show you great returns. They want to talk about great investment strategies, or maybe like a way to save you thousands of dollars on taxes. These things get clients excited. And very often they're the type of thing that is really discussed here on YouTube. But the fact is, you have to know the team you're up against. Before you start making an offensive game plan, knowing your expenses about how much you're going to spend over the next 30 years in retirement is arguably the most important part of a retirement plan. Advisors tend to overlook this important element, okay? At the very least, they do not spend nearly enough time on it. Let me show you a very simple, quick example. Okay, now this one is a quick example of how expenses can ruin a retirement plan. I did this great video a couple weeks ago about a client who actually came in here and they did not use the top-down approach, okay? And we'll talk about that in a second. But bottom line is the expenses that they assumed they would have for the life of their retirement were way too low. And when we dug into it, we realized that they were spending more money than they thought. This was the plan that we inherited from another advisor. There was a 95% chance of success. And I've taken a lot of the variables out of here just to focus on essentially one thing, their expenses. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Client, your retirement plan looks great. You have a 95% chance of retirement success. You're going to die most likely, who knows, with $1.3 million in the bank, and you're spending $5,500 a month. Sounds great, right? Wrong. When we did the work, they were actually spending $6,500 a month, and that was something that they were not going to be able to change. This was their normal expenses that they were going to need in retirement. This plan goes from a 95% chance of success just by changing one number, this number. Now, they need to work for 2 or 3 more years. Why? Because the advisor gave them a plan with the wrong expense assumption. Expense assumptions are critical. They are the baseline to any plan, and that's the type of work that a lot of advisors don't look at close enough. The discussions I've had with clients when they come in is something like this. Hey, what do you spend? I don't know. No, you need to know, and this is why. Okay, so 3 quick points to make about expenses that you need to understand. Number 1, often overlooked. Number 2, the only way to properly budget for expenses, I believe, is using the top-down approach. I recently made a video about this, an actual case study right here, done like this, okay? And point number 3 about expenses. While they will go down in retirement, it's true, your expenses will go down in retirement. They will not go down as much as inflation will go up, especially when you consider healthcare costs. So even though your real expenses will be slightly less every year, as an 80-year-old, your actual dollar expenses that you will need to cover expenses will be higher than they are today. Here's the questions you should ask to spot a possible red flag when it comes to expenses in your advisor's retirement plan. These are critical. Don't just ask the questions. Make sure you get to see the answer, okay? Question number 1. What, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor, are you assuming for my monthly general expenses in the first year of retirement, okay? Now, let's say they say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, in the first year of retirement, we are planning on you spending $8,000 a month. Okay, fine. Is that right? Is that wrong? 95% of you don't know what you're spending, okay? So when they give you that number, $8,000, you have to kind of do a little math, a little common logic test that really works and goes back to that top-down approach. You think to yourself, okay, my spouse and I right now, we're still working. We're making about $240,000 a year in income. Doing a little quick math here, that's like $20,000 a month of income. So why is my advisor saying that we're spending $8,000 a month? Where's the difference going, okay? That might be what I just presented, a very reasonable assumption, but you need to know the answer. I'm making $20,000 a month. You're forecasting $8,000 as expenses. Where's all my other money going? He or she should be able to show you the answer to that. And number 3, a great way to identify a problem with expenses in your retirement plan is, hey, what do you show my expenses to be at age 80 compared to age 65? Now, again, we're thinking about inflation here, right? This is a critical point. My total expenses at age 80, believe it or not, should be about 20 to 40% higher at age 80 than if I'm 65, okay? This is in terms of actual dollars. So you can just do a quick math problem. My expenses at age 65 are $8,000, maybe the first year of retirement. They should be 20 to 40% higher at age 80, not because I'm spending more, but because inflation takes up more than my expenses actually go down. And finally, about expenses, this is a great one. It blows your mind every time. Ask the advisor, what are you projecting for my overall healthcare costs, okay? And he gives you an answer. Ask him, what's the cost when I'm 80, okay? Very simple question. Expenses for healthcare at 65, expenses for healthcare at 80, okay? They're doing their job. They're going to answer this really quickly, but the answer is going to shock you, or it should shock you, okay? Right now, it's 2025. If I was doing a plan for a 60-year-old couple, I would tell them by age 80, they're going to need $30,000 to $35,000 of healthcare expenses by the time they're 80. This is a huge difference. Healthcare costs go up 5% a year. You need to know that. It's a great question to ask. It's a very critical part of your retirement. Ask the question. If you don't get the answer that you're expecting, or the answer that I think you should expect, again, $30,000 to $35,000, age 80, something's wrong with your retirement plan. Having these discussions with your advisor is going to tell you a lot about the confidence you can have in your retirement plan. By the way, if you're finding these tips helpful, useful, or as fun as I think they are, give me a thumbs up. I do a lot of work on these videos. I love putting my passion into this. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more retirement knowledge just like this. Let's keep going. One more thing about assumptions that will derail your plan. I've seen advisors get this wrong all the time, all too often. It's about longevity. How long am I going to live? People underestimate their life expectancy all the time. Realize this. Today, a baby is born in the United States of America. Their life expectancy is about 78, depending on a lot of things, their sex, their race, all that stuff. But that's for a newborn. You are not a newborn. Maybe you and your wife are now 65. The math completely changes on longevity. Yes, you are 65 years old. There is a 50% chance that one of you is going to live to age 95. Now, a lot of people say, I'm never going to be 95 years old. That's fine. You can think that, you can say that, but it is not prudent for an advisor, in my opinion, to assume that at least one of you is not going to live to be age 95. In fact, Americans are expected to live longer and longer. This is something that is critical. Of course, a retirement plan is going to look great if you only need assets until age 80. I personally would not build a plan for my clients that does not include, as I said, at least one spouse living to age 95. Not prudent in my opinion. Making the wrong assumption on longevity is an obvious problem because, as I alluded to earlier, it can give you misguided feelings or recommendations about, is it safe to retire, okay? And perhaps it's not the case if the assumption is wrong. Making this mistake on longevity, though, has other hidden landmines in your retirement plan, like choosing possibly the wrong Social Security strategy, okay? Like maybe making the wrong investment allocation on your overall retirement plan, okay? And also, what about long-term care planning? Longevity assumptions not only dictate the plan as far as success of retirement, they impact a lot of other things. So what are the signs that perhaps your advisor has misstepped with regards to longevity in your retirement plan? I've been giving you questions you can ask your advisor on previous problems. With this problem, it's a little bit different. With regards to longevity, it's not the questions you should ask your advisor. It's about the questions that maybe he or she has asked you. So you need to think back about prior discussions you've had with your advisor. Have they ever asked you a question about your parents' health? Have they ever asked you what health issues they had? How old are they? Have they ever asked you, if your parents aren't alive, have they asked at what age did your parents die? Have they ever asked you about your family health history overall? Have they ever asked you about your personal health history? Perhaps they were even so bold as to ask or inquire about what prescriptions you take. Now, that almost feels like a breach of privacy, but actually, in my opinion, it's a sign of an advisor actually doing his or her job well. And finally, the obvious question. You should ask your advisor, in this plan that you've put together for my spouse and I, how long are you assuming we live? Okay. If it's anything less than 95, that might be a red flag with regards to longevity. So these were just a few of the unexpected reasons why advisors can go wrong with retirement planning. Unfortunately, we only covered 3 points today. Okay, we barely scratched the surface of how to avoid a risky retirement plan and advice. The reality is that retirement planning has definitely changed significantly over the last decade or so. Okay, making much of the advice that you find online less relevant than what it once was. If you are managing your own retirement planning, just be sure to consider the points that we mentioned here today carefully. If you're already working with an advisor, ask these questions that I share with you today, okay? They will be invaluable. If the answers don't sit well with you, do not hesitate to seek a second opinion. And if you haven't chosen an advisor yet, take the time to do your research. Selecting the right advisor is the most critical step in your retirement planning journey. Keep in mind, you do have only one chance to get your retirement right. I have dedicated my career to developing the AIM retirement system. This is a complete, comprehensive approach designed to help you achieve your retirement goals while providing clear insights into what many advisors often overlook. If you're interested, I've created a short video explains the process of how we help retirees and those who are nearing retirement to build a strong, tailored strategy with our trademarked AIM retirement system. To learn more about this system, or maybe just to schedule a one-on-one discussion with me to talk about your retirement goals, simply click on the first link in this description. I thank you very much for listening to this video today. I hope I get to see you again in the next one. My name is Cyr, CPA, and I'm serious about retirement.